Hello and welcome to From Impossible to Inevitable. This is episode 190. I am your host, Megan Bauer. Thank you so much for joining me today and pushing play on today's episode. So, this is a fun fact about the podcast if you are new to the show. I very much feel like all of my podcast topics are handed to me by the universe. Whenever I know I need to record, the ideas come. They just come and it feels right. It feels right in my body and I'm like, "Okay, this is what I should talk about. This is what I should share. This is what somebody needs right now," or, it'll be there when they need it or whatever it is. And so I have really started to pay attention when things come to my mind repeatedly. And I have thought about this specific story that I am going to share with you s- quite a lot in the past week or so. And then this morning, as I was like, I think I should record today, just as I was thinking about my week, I was like, today is probably going to be the best day to get the recording done. What should I talk about? And this story popped up in my head again. So I'm like, okay, this wasn't just for me, although it has been making an impact on me for like the last week. It's something that someone else needs to hear too. And so I am always obliging, always happy to take direction from the universe. And so I am bringing this story to you today because it just keeps coming up and it will keep coming up until I do what I need to do with it. Okay? So I heard this story earlier this year and I will put a link in the show notes to where I heard the story so you can get all of its context. It's got a religious context to it, but I'm not necessarily taking it to a religious place, but there is religious context to it. If you're interested, you can go dive into where I originally heard this story at the beginning of the year, okay? So, here is this quote. Again, this is not mine. There's a link to the original source in the show notes for you to dive into, should you want to. But we are going to take this, I wouldn't say a completely different direction, but we're going to take this in a very from impossible to inevitable type direction. Okay, enough preamble, let's go. Consider this insight provided by 18th century Hasidic scholar Zusya of Anipol. Zusya was a renowned teacher who began to fear as he approached death. His disciples asked, "Master, why do you tremble? You've lived a good life. Surely God will grant you a great reward." Zusya said, "If God says to me, 'Zusya, why were you not another Moses?' I will say, 'Because you didn't give me the greatness of soul you gave Moses.' And if I stand before God and he says, 'Zusya, why were you not another Solomon?' I will say, 'Because you didn't give me the wisdom of Solomon.' But alas, what will I say if I stand before my Maker and he says, 'Zusya, why were you not Zusya? Why were you not the man I gave you the capacity to be?' Ah, that is why I tremble." So over and over this last week, this story has come to my mind. And it has been very much like, "Megan, why are you not being the woman I gave you the capacity to be?" And it's become very personalized in that way. And so as I bring it to you, that is the part of the story that I want to emphasize. We are all given this capacity, this potential, this mission to fulfill on earth, this person that we are meant to become. It is definitely in my core beliefs that we all have a purpose, whether you call it a divine purpose or whether you associate it with religion or not. It doesn't really matter to me, but I totally believe that we all have growing room. We all have a capacity. We all have a potential. We all have work that we are uniquely suited to do. We all have a purpose to fulfill. We all have an impact to make, and that's going to look different. It's going to feel different for absolutely everyone because we are all so different. Even if on the outside, there are a lot of things that look the same, there are lots of people in my neighborhood. There are lots of people in my neighborhood who go to my church. There are lots of people in my neighborhood who, do this or do that. And we could make all of these groups. But when it comes down to it, there's absolutely no one in my neighborhood who grew up with the parents that I had in the time that I grew up. Even me and my siblings were vastly different humans because we we all have different DNA and we all experience things differently even when we were in the same situation, right? So we are all extremely unique. We have our own unique perspectives. We have our own talents and skills. Even if other people have those talents and skills too, they probably use them differently because they are a different person. There's tons of personal development podcasts out there. Some of them are very good, and I listen to some of them, and that's great. But nobody's going to deliver the same podcast episode on even the same topic the way that I can, and I can't deliver it the same way somebody else does because we're different people, all with our own potential, our own capacity, our own missions. And when we can really know that we've got this potential, this capacity, this impact that only we can make, we feel that responsibility a little bit more. We're like, oh, I really need to do something with this. This is on me. Because no one can make the impact that you can make. And it doesn't, when I say impact, we're not necessarily talking about world-changing impact, but maybe we are. Maybe we're just talking about, little impacts on people's day-to-day lives, but even that I'm hesitant to call it little because the ripple effect can be huge. Because if you make a small impact on your neighbor and your neighbor turns around and makes another impact on, somebody that they work with, and then that person turns around and makes an impact on their family, and then that person, there's no end. But it starts with us realizing that we have our own divine potential, our own capacity, that we are 100% responsible for fulfilling. That is your responsibility. Every kid can have the capacity to be able to read or to be able to tie their shoes or to be able to ride their bike, but they have to put in the work to learn how to read, to learn how to tie their shoes, to learn how to ride their bike. They've got to show up for the task over and over and over again in order to be successful at it. And the same thing with us. In order to reach our potential, fulfill who it is that we are meant to become, and tap into this capacity that we just innately have, we have to put in the work to do that. And my brain is like, okay, well, what are the action steps? What do we do? Give me the list so I can check off all of the boxes. But it's not that simple because we are all so divinely unique. But I would bet that if you got real quiet with yourself and real introspective and grabbed your journal and spent some time on what it means for you to fulfill your capacity, for you to be the person you were given the capacity to be, what does that look like for you right now? I bet you could start to figure it out. And keep in mind that this is an ongoing process. So what it would look like for you to fulfill your capacity now will likely look different from what it will be next year or 2 years from now or 5 years from now, because you will have grown. You will have developed. You will be ever expanding and even increasing your capacity as you learn, as you try things, as you kind of figure out more of who you are. That will change. So it's not going to be a forever thing, right? I mean, when I started the podcast, over 3 years ago now, my capacity was at one episode a week. Like that's what I had. That's what I had ideas for. That's what I had the time for. That's what I knew I could commit to. That was my capacity at that time. And then when this year started, I was like, you know what? I think I've got two a week in me. I think I've grown to this point where I can reliably publish two a week. And I've done that all year. But my capacity grew because I kept showing up for the thing. I kept tapping into what it meant, what it felt like, what it looked like to be more of who I am. So ask yourself as you go throughout this week, ask yourself, what does that look like for me? And maybe even ask it the same way Zusya did, Zusya said, what if I stand before my maker and he says, Zusya, why were you not Zusya? Why were you not the man I gave you the capacity to be? And you can just put your own name in there. You can pretend, whoever is impactful for you is saying this to you, you know? You, and Megan, why were you not Megan? Why were you not the woman I gave you the capacity to be? And that's going to be really hard to answer. And maybe we won't have to answer that because that sounds terrifying. But honestly, I think we can put in a good effort. Because I think at the end, I just want to be like, I tried. It was real hard, but I did my best. But I want to be able to say that at the end, right? So what does that mean for today? What does that mean for what I have the capacity for today? How I can be Megan today in the fullest way that I can show up as who I am. Because as I've been journaling about this and journaling through other things too, which have related, which has been really interesting in my head, it's been more of this like, wait, this is actually who I've always been. And when I remove the doubt and when I remove the fear and when I remove the endless overthinking and overanalyzing, this is actually who I have always been. And it feels more like a remembering. It's not really like a being someone else. It's not, I'm not ever going to be Mel Robbins or I can't even think of any other people right now. I'm not ever going to be any of the other people. Any other people. Ryan Holiday, right? I love Ryan Holiday. I will never be Ryan Holiday, and that's fine. But I have the responsibility to be as me as I can be. And I think for all of us, there's a lot of removal of stuff, especially we can start with the fear and we can start with the doubt. All of that just puts a damper on who we are and a damper on our ability to show up as brightly and as powerfully as we can. This is what I would love for you to think about this coming week. This, to journal on. What is your capacity? What are the gifts you were given? What is your potential? And maybe you don't know, maybe you can't see that far into the future. Maybe you're not sure, but it's more of just like, what's the next right thing for you? What would it feel like to step into who you are a little bit more? And as you step into who you are a little bit more, it's like that path will become illuminated. I remember one time, this is a little bit personal, but I'm going to go there anyway. I remember one time feeling so frustrated about like, what am I supposed to do on this planet? What is my purpose? What are my gifts? Like, what am I gonna, what? Just tell me what to do. And this was a prayer that I prayed and I was like, please, what am I supposed to do? This was a couple of years ago. And I remember the response being like, I can't tell you. It'd freak you out. And I was like, oh, great. That's just perfect. I love knowing that my future will freak me out. But as I have stepped into this role of podcasting and helping people with their habits and helping people with goals and really owning these gifts of mine to help the way that I am divinely suited to help, it doesn't freak me out so much anymore. But I can see several years back, I would have been like, I'm doing what? I'm publishing what every week? I'm I've got enough words for all of that. Like, what? I can see that freaking me out, but over time I've kind of become desensitized because I have just gradually stepped into the next right thing. The podcast was real scary in the beginning, and it's not so scary anymore because I don't know. I've just come to this place, these terms with it of like, well, this is what I need to do. This is how I need to show up in the world. This is what I'm meant to be doing at this time. And it feels good. It feels like me stepping into who it is I'm meant to be. Okay. So enough about me. For you, though, think about this story. Think about somebody asking you about you fulfilling your capacity, the capacity that you were uniquely, divinely, innately given. Because you have that capacity. You totally do. There are no extra humans on this planet. Everyone has a purpose. Everyone has a potential. Everyone has a capacity. And it's 100% our job to figure out what our potential is, what our capacity is, what our gifts are, how we want to give those gifts to the world, how we want to show up, what feels so much like us that we can't help but show up that way, to give that way, to do the thing, because it's definitely not about being someone else or doing things the way other people would do it. That would be a waste of who you are. I think it's Kurt Cobain who said, wanting to be someone else is a waste of who you are. I believe that was him. But that's truly the essence of it. But it's your responsibility to figure it out. It's your responsibility to, once you have figured out, overcome the fear, overcome the doubt, overcome whatever it is that you need to overcome, to act as that person and to step into being that person as fully as you can. And you will know in your body, I can totally promise you this, you will know in your body when you are being that person. Because you will feel good, you will feel light, you will feel peace. We get all of these emotions and anxieties in our body, when our stomach ties into knots with fear or doubt, or we feel weighed down when we're not being that person. All of that comes from us not being the person that we were meant to be. And I'm not saying that stepping into that person isn't scary, because it isn't. It is. It totally is. But it's more of that like exhilarating fear of like, I'm freaked out, but what if it's awesome? It's like stepping onto the roller coaster, right? You're like, oh, I'm a little bit scared, but this is going to be kind of fun. It's that kind of fear, not this like, oh, I should do this. I know like my heart wants this, but I just can't. That shrinking back fear. There's a difference in fear there. But one is this like, oh, this could be fun. What if it works? And the other one is really, it's heavy. It's heavy. So you will feel a difference in your body when you are stepping up and being that person, and you'll know. You will know. That's what I have for you today. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode. Again, I will put a link to the source of my quote in the show notes for you if you're interested. It does have a religious context, so don't be surprised by that. But it's so good. It's so good. And really, go out there and be more of who you were made to be. Don't have to make full sweep changes. Just step into that person a little bit more. See how it feels, and then keep doing it over and over and over again. And remember, this is more of like getting back down to your roots. It's more of a remembering. It's not this like conjuring. This is a deeper truth, a deeper identity. It's not this like imaginative thing. Yes. Thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you. I totally love you. Until next time. Bye for now.